Welcome to my scientifically informed insider look at mental health topics. If you find this video to be interesting or helpful, please like it and subscribe to my channel. Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question asks, how can we identify a leader with dark triad traits? So these are leaders in organizations with disruptively high levels of narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Another question here would be, is there a way to manage or prevent damage caused by dark triad traits? So I'll answer these questions by looking at the 10 signs of leaders with dark triad traits and the 3 things that organizations can do about dark triad traits. Now, I've covered the dark triad traits in depth in other videos, so I'll just go through a quick review here. Again, the 3 traits, narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Narcissism is characterized by a strong sense of entitlement and grandiosity, a high need for power, and an arrogant and condescending attitude. Individuals with this trait need to put other people down in order to feel better. Machiavellianism is characterized by a cynical view of human nature, a distrust of people, and a calculating and deceitful interpersonal style. Individuals who are Machiavellianistic are not impulsive, and they don't want to be the center of attention. What happens to others is not important to them. If somebody else benefits because of a Machiavellian's behavior, that's fine. If another is harmed, they don't worry about that either. So this, of course, is different than what we see with narcissism. The last trait is psychopathy. This is often viewed as the darkest of the dark triad traits. It's characterized by a lack of empathy, guilt, or remorse. We see that psychopaths are reckless, deceptive, fearless, and have a manipulative interpersonal style. They like to see others suffer, even if it doesn't help them in a material way. As I talk about the dark triad in organizations, I'll refer to the dark triad leaders. So these are leaders high in dark triad traits. I'll also refer to coworkers. So this would be somebody that works with a dark triad leader, but there's no supervisory capacity of that leader over that coworker, right? So they might be at the same level as that leader. And I'll talk about the followers. These people are supervised by the dark triad leader and are in a terrible position. Of course, the followers don't have a choice in terms of their position. People can't choose their supervisors, but they may have a choice in terms of to what degree they support or resist the destructive behavior of the dark triad leader. The dark triad leader looks at followers in one of 4 possible ways, and some of these ways also could apply to coworkers in some situations. The first way a dark triad leader could look at a follower would be as neutral. So the follower really doesn't support or resist the leader. These people are usually targeted eventually by the leader, but not necessarily first. The next way is as an obstacle, right? So these people, these followers have integrity, conviction, principles, and morals. These followers don't put up with the behavior of the dark triad leaders, and they stand up for the victims created by those leaders. The dark triad leaders target these people first. Criticize them, they falsely accuse them, they fail to promote them, and they create a hostile work environment for them. Integrity and dark triad traits cannot truly coexist in terms of expression within work environments. One is going to win out over the other. The next category would be facilitator. So this follower goes along with some but not all of the dark triad leader's schemes and offenses and fails to report offenses. So they don't support the victims of the dark triad leaders. The classic lines of the facilitator who is confronted by a victim of a dark triad leader who's looking for support would be that I don't want any trouble and I don't want to get involved, right? So they lack conviction. They simply don't have the moral fortitude of the individuals considered to be obstacles by the dark triad leader. Or they may be acting out of fear, and some may have dark triad traits of their own. This brings me to the last category, co-conspirator. Here we see a follower who essentially serves as an agent of the dark triad leader. These followers often have dark triad traits themselves. They envy the power that the leader has, and they believe themselves to be leaders in training, so they want to become like the dark triad leader. Now moving to the 10 signs of dark triad leader behavior in an organization. As I list each of these signs, I'm going to indicate which traits are more strongly aligned with that behavior. Sign number 1. They devalue the source of criticism or negative feedback when evidence supports the credibility of that source. This is mostly aligned with narcissism. For example, an employee, a follower, may not like abusive language that was included in an email. So the Dark Triad leader may say that email is not reliable and it can be changed. So really suggesting that somehow the employee hacked into the email server and changed the content of the email. A great example of how this sign functions is when a Dark Triad leader will accept praise from a particular employee or a particular performance metric, like a report that contains metrics. They'll look at that and say, well, I accept that praise. I accept that that indicates something good about me. But when that same person or that same report indicates something negative, they will devalue it. So this really doesn't make sense, right? If the source is not credible, it's not credible for praise or criticism. But the Dark Triad leader accepts the praise and rejects the criticism. Sign number 2, they make fast, impulsive decisions that only focus on the short term and fail to account for the long-term consequences. This is primarily aligned with psychopathy, but we see another version of this, and this is when some of the decisions may also be risky. They might be characterized as bold, as well as violating morals. Here, this implicates psychopathy and narcissism. Sign number 3, they question existing rules and policies as well as authority figures in an effort to disrupt organizational functioning. This is most closely aligned with psychopathy. Now, the last part is really important here. Employees should question rules, policies, and authority figures when appropriate, but not in an effort to destroy the functioning of the company. And of course, that's what we see from the Dark Triad leader. They really want to disrupt everything. Sign number 4, they use manipulation to meet strategic goals. This is primarily associated with Machiavellianism, but psychopathy is also implicated here. Now, when the manipulation is used to protect one's ego, that's more tied to narcissism. Sign number 5, overclaiming their contribution to the company and taking credit for other people's work. This has a strong association with narcissism. Sign number 6, hiding information for their own use when sharing it with colleagues would be more useful for the goals of the organization. This is most closely associated with Machiavellianism. Sign number 7, seeking a personal benefit without considering the perspectives of other people. This is mostly Machiavellianism, but also tied to narcissism and psychopathy, so all three. We believe that the lack of empathy component is kind of important to this sign. Sign number 8, participating in behaviors designed to minimize the influence of others or to control them. All three Dark Triad traits are implicated here, but mostly Machiavellianism. So a person exhibiting this sign may demote people that criticize them. They may pretend to hear the complaints of the follower, but then they don't act on the complaints. So they make the follower, the employee, believe that the complaints have been registered, that they've been understood, and that they'll be acted on, but they don't do anything about it. Sign number 9, encouraging coworkers to make risky decisions that have little or no chance of being successful. This is associated with psychopathy and, to a lesser extent, Machiavellianism. The idea here is that the individual wants to see their coworkers or followers make mistakes and get in trouble. So the Dark Triad leader is more likely to use this with somebody they want to get rid of, somebody they want to be fired or demoted. Moving to sign number 10, this is criticizing or bullying coworkers to encourage them to focus their attention on the personal relationship with the Dark Triad leader and divert their attention from the responsibilities of their job. So really this is about making it personal on purpose. This is most closely associated with psychopathy. So those are 10 behaviors that organizations should be looking out for. A lot of times when I consult organizations, they say something like, look, we now recognize what Dark Triad traits are, but we don't know what to do about it, right? That's usually why they would call somebody like me in the first place. They know something's going on, but they can't identify it perfectly, and again, they don't know what to do about it. So that's why here I'm also including the 3 things that employers or organizations can do when they have detected a Dark Triad leader. So identifying is good, but identifying and fixing the problem is better. Sign number 1 is to create an environment of accountability. There need to be both checks and balances. Don't give a few people a lot of power. More power equals higher Dark Triad traits expression. And this is one of the toughest areas for organizations to learn. Sometimes it's just more expedient to give a few people a lot of power and autonomy. It's just easier in terms of making decisions and all of that, but it comes at a cost. In line with this, organizations also need to create an environment that encourages complaining, right? Which may sound odd, but you do want people to complain when appropriate, and they need to conduct real investigations and take real actions against Dark Triad leaders. The Dark Triad leader encourages and nurtures the dark personality components of followers. The Dark Triad is on a continuum, so everyone has some of these different traits, right? Nobody is free of all those traits. Now, often these traits are kind of laying low. They're not pronounced, but again, they're still there, and those traits could express themselves. Power allows people to act in accordance with their internal traits. The more power somebody has, the more we see them as they really are. We see their true trait expression. And expressing a trait is intrinsically satisfying, so people move toward that. Therefore, if a Dark Triad leader presents an opportunity for a follower to manifest a behavior that was suppressed, there's a good chance that follower is going to play along. The Dark Triad leader helps the follower to unlock their inner Dark Triad characteristics. The second item here of what organizations could do: create an ethical work environment. Make sure that everyone knows that one of the organizational values is to follow ethics. Moral reasoning is actually highly affected by the environment. So an organization should create an environment that encourages moral reasoning, and they should expect that to actually cause changes. Education is one of the biggest keys here. Reviewing moral dilemmas in group discussions, studying social issues, and reviewing ethical decision-making processes can help individuals develop moral reasoning. And the last item here, number 3, promote carefully and be willing to reverse a promotion if it was the wrong decision. Upon realizing a mistake that an organization has made, some leaders will actually reward the Dark Triad leader by promoting them again out of that position, right? I see this all the time. So instead of firing them or demoting them or otherwise putting them in a safe position, they promote them. Now, I think the theory here is that this avoids liability and perhaps other headaches, but ultimately it's the wrong move. Organizations really can't dodge these issues. They can't hope that Dark Triad leaders are just going to take care of themselves, that they'll just straighten things out eventually. Organizations need to take definitive actions and treat the Dark Triad leader problem as a real problem. So those are some of my thoughts on what an organization can do to address the problems associated with Dark Triad leaders. I know whenever I talk about topics like this, there will be a variety of opinions. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comments section. They always generate a really interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found this description of the Dark Triad traits to be interesting. Thanks for watching.